When it comes to building and leading a company, there are no body doubles. It is all you, baby. So the faster you learn to shed your fear of vulnerability, the more you open up to the richness of the experience that is entrepreneurial leadership. Let's dive in. So here's the question. In a world where the rules of business have been written by men, how do women entrepreneurs like us, women who want to make millions of dollars and impact millions of lives, how do we create enormous success on our terms? That's the question, and this show explores the answers. Welcome to Power Presence Position. I'm your host, Eleanor Beaton, and I'm on a mission to double the number of women entrepreneurs who generate over $1 million per year in annual revenue. I'm an award-winning entrepreneur, author, and leadership coach. I'm a wife, mom of 2 boys, and I'm the CEO of a 7-figure business. Stick around because on this show, you'll learn how to think, communicate, and get paid like a 7-figure CEO. Let's go. Hello, my fierce friend, and welcome to Power Presence Position. This is episode number 423, and we are talking about full-frontal leadership for female CEOs. Ooh, this is a juicy one I have got for you. So I hope you are having a good workout, a good walk, a good making dinner, a good, commute, and you can really sink into the richness that I have pulled together for you inside this episode. So before I get there, I want to take a moment to acknowledge and thank you for taking the time to review Power Presence Position on iTunes, on Google Play, on all the very cool podcast player apps that you use. I want you to know how much I appreciate those reviews, how delighted I feel to see one, because to me, for you to take time out of your day to leave me a review because you know it's going to be helpful to me and will allow me to ensure that other women entrepreneurs and female founders can listen to this show, I just really appreciate that. I got to say, So I want to take a moment to acknowledge an amazing 5-star review that came in from Melanie Perry. She calls this review inspiration. She says, I appreciate Eleanor's commitment to doubling the number of 7-figure women entrepreneurs and her willingness to share her behind-the-scenes growth as she continuously walks the talk. Her community is great. Yes, Miss Melanie Perry is one of our amazing clients inside the incubator. She says her community is great, the best I've experienced to date. Thank you so much, Melanie Perry. I so appreciate that review. And I appreciate you, Queen. I appreciate you. So let's dive into the episode. Here's the thing, as entrepreneurs, we talk a lot about things going well, and we are obsessed with trying to reverse engineer the conditions under which things go well for us. And we celebrate things going well, and we talk about things going well, and we are obsessed with things going well because that's our end goal. We're trying to create an ecosystem that produces abundance and prosperity and impact. It's this gorgeous promised land that we're all on a mission to get to. And I think it's very healthy for us as women to celebrate our achievements, to talk about what we are experiencing, because this shows what's possible. It shows the way, and it normalizes the path of accomplishment and achievement for women entrepreneurs. And so many of us, you included, are rewriting the narrative for success. You are rewriting the narrative of what does a successful team makeup look like? You may have worked or spent a big part of your career inside a place where it is all full-time employees working from 9 to 5, but maybe you are choosing to build your company with a virtual team or with a mix of full-time and contract. Who knows, right? Like you are actively redefining what business success looks like. In business schools, they don't teach about businesses like ours, the kinds of businesses that millions of women are starting every day across the world, right? So us talking about what we're doing it, how we're doing it, the wins we're experiencing, what's working. This is tremendous. And I have certainly experienced so much feeling of kinship and support by hearing other women talk about what's working well for them. The shadow side, however, is that we don't necessarily acknowledge how tough it can be to start and launch and scale a business. Now, as an aside, if you are in the doldrums, if you are experiencing challenges in your business, I want to direct your attention to an amazing book called The Messy Middle. And The Messy Middle is probably one of the best books I have seen to articulate the entrepreneurial experience and the real challenges that entrepreneurs can face as they go through the startup phase. And really, you're in the startup phase until your business is in a place of real, sort of sustained growth. So the shadow side is that sometimes we don't talk about how tough it can be, especially in kind of the online entrepreneurial world. And I know that a lot of you are not even part of that world. You know what I mean? That's why I love you so much. But the reality is it's where we're getting a lot of our information. It's, most of the podcasts we listen to and are created by people who are actively involved in marketing our businesses online. And what I see is that in that world, there's a lot of talk about how well things are going. But the shadow side is that we don't acknowledge how tough it can be. And I think that many of us do it from a place of good intention, because we understand that where our attention flows, that thing grows. And so if we spend a lot of time talking about how hard it can be, guess what? A lot of our teachers tell us you're just going to experience even more hardship. And that is true. That is absolutely true. I think that we can always choose to look at the bright side, or we can choose to focus on what isn't working, what's tough, what's broken, all of that. And trust me, if you're looking for what's tough and what's broken, you are not only going to find tons of it, but you will find tons of people who affirm that opinion and that point of view. However, there are times when only focusing and talking about things going well becomes kind of a form of spiritual bypassing. And so we don't acknowledge the difficulty, but in not acknowledging the difficulty, we sidestep the richness that comes at the other side of not only experiencing the difficulty, but learning from it, processing it. I think this desire to have everything be nice, to have everything be in flow, to have everything be comfortable all the time can really hold us back from taking risks or embracing the full experience. I was recently listening to an entrepreneur talk about 2020, and he was talking about, he said these two words, and I can't even remember sort of the context. The context was it was a difficult year. Okay, let's just leave it at that. It was something about being a difficult year. And he was talking about feeling vulnerable, and he used the term full-frontal. And I was going for a walk. I was going for this gorgeous walk along this country lane, and I literally stopped and I fist pumped the air and I said, "Right on, brother." Because that's what it feels like, right? That's what it feels like to be fully committed to something and to have things and to go through a period where it's not working out for you. And I think that knowledge, like we have been around the block and we have experienced enough in our lives to know what that full frontal vulnerability feels like, that it is easy to instinctively hold back from that. I can remember years ago, I was speaking at an event, and one of the other speakers was a really excellent sort of motivational sales trainer. And he said to the audience that their embarrassability was holding them back. Their unwillingness to be embarrassed was holding them back from doing the very things that they needed to do to grow their business. And at the time, that was like an arrow in my heart. because at the time I knew that even though I was generating momentum in my business, I was still not fully committing. I was still holding myself back from being visible. I was holding myself back from speaking. I was holding myself back from making offers. Because the reality is that I wanted to appear refined at all times. And when you are asking for somebody to do business with you and you are learning how to sell and you're learning how to be visible, it's going to feel different. And I was very concerned about looking weird, about being odd, about coming across as pushy, about having people not like me, about having people thinking I was extremely markety. I was obsessed with that, so I was holding back. And the reality is I didn't want to be full frontal. I wanted a body double to do that part of my business for me, to be visible, to make offers. The reality was there was no body double for me. I had to do it, and I think this analogy of the body double and full frontal, like where in your business are you holding back from full frontal and wanting a body double to come in and do it for you? Where is that happening? Interestingly, I had this amazing client who was a body double for like Halle Berry, and Janet Jackson. It was so cool. We were all kind of in awe of her. It was just such she had so many neat stories and experiences, as I'm sure you can imagine. But the reality is, even in her business, she was a former body double and had no body double. She had to do it. We all do. Full commitment, being fully committed and being all in and going for it. This is the most vulnerable thing there is. Because when you are all in and going for it, when you are not holding back, when you are fully committed and people see that full commitment, you 100% run the risk of people seeing you fail, of failing publicly. And people say they can take that, but in some cases, that's not the truth because they're still actually holding back from fully committing and fully putting themselves into a situation like really, and I'm not talking about dangerous risk here, but I'm really talking about really going for it and opening yourself up to the possibility of failure. So this doesn't mean that we don't put contingency plans. This doesn't mean that we don't prepare, but I really see people holding back and leaving a lot on the table because they are afraid of how they will look. Because when you fully commit, and you are a talented, accomplished person, you fully commit, you go for something and you run into hard times, damn girl, that's hard. That is excruciating, especially for high performers. It does feel like you are naked and standing in front of people. And let's be honest, not naked with your gorgeous 23-year-old self, who, do you ever have that experience where you're like, oh my gosh, why was I insecure at 23? Because I had zero reason to be. And that girl was banging, by the way. But anyway, when you are feeling this kind of vulnerability, it's not like gorgeous 23, 25-year-old naked self. No, this is the woman you are now. The woman whose body bears the marks of the life you have lived. And that is the beautiful, whole, experienced woman. That kind of vulnerability is something that is unique to female founders and unique to women entrepreneurs because you are building the plane as you are flying it, right? That's how we have to go. Nobody built it for us. We're not stepping into a plane that's been built. That's what people don't understand. We are doing it both at the same time, and there are still very few examples of women of what that looks like and what it looks like for women to do that. I do feel that we are held to a different standard than our brethren, let's be honest. But this is why the willingness to know that you're probably going to be held to a different standard, to know that you're going to fail in public, to do it anyway. This is why I respect women entrepreneurs so much. This is why I think about you all the time. Every time I go through something that's challenging myself, I think about it not only as something that I'm going through, but it gives me this other dimension to look at my work as a business coach for women entrepreneurs and a woman who creates, who has a company. And with my team, we put together programming and supports for women entrepreneurs who are growing. I personally, this has been a tough month for me. I will be honest. For the very first time all year in September, I was like, you know what? Maybe let's just cancel 2020. I am not that person, but September was tough. It was really tough. I'll probably talk about, kind of take you behind the scenes when I'm in a position to not be in it, but to speak about it from a place of kind of leadership and genuine helpfulness. But, suffice it to say that September has been a tough month for me. And I have been experiencing that kind of full frontal vulnerability. And it is so hard. It is so hard. And it's interesting because, I used to think that once I got to a certain place financially in my business, that would solve all my problems. That would protect me from full frontal vulnerability. And for those of you guys who are on my email list, who subscribe to my email list. And if you don't, the best way is to actually sign up for my Niching Down webinar. So it's kind of my signature webinar that I run live, by the way. You would go to powerpresenceposition.com and sign up for that. You will get information, it's a funnel. You will get information about my Niching Down webinar, which you want to check out. But once, you get that information, then you'll be actually on my email list. And I send out some very heartfelt missives on a regular basis that people seem to really love because we get a lot of feedback from them. But in the most recent one, I was talking about the transition of moving from a place where there was a time in my business in 2015, actually, when I can remember getting a $6,500 bill from a marketing consultant. And at the time, I was still building my business. I was going through cash flow crunches and I had $7,500 in my corporate account. Okay. So I had the $6,500 bill. I have $7,500 in my corporate account. I'm in between, receiving payments. You know what it is, managing cash flow hardcore. And I was talking about that and comparing it to where I am today, where the business is bigger and obviously overhead is bigger. And there's just, it's more complex. And I have team members, and it's really important to me that we have, reserves in place is critical. And so I have a significant cash reserve and have built that up over time. And it's significant. And that is what allows us to be able to grow with a certain kind of peace of mind. The interesting thing is that, if years ago, if you told me I would be at this place and I would still experience the kind of toughness that I've experienced this month, I would have laughed in your face. I would be like, no. But listen, just, that's not true. It totally still happens. And in fact, this month, there were some things that I experienced that were so personally difficult for me that for the very first time since 2016, my entrepreneurial resolve wavered. And I literally had a moment. I was lying in bed. I just felt so defeated. I was like, I don't know if I can do this. And it was just a little flicker. It was this little flicker. And I, remembered, oh my gosh, I knew the feeling. I haven't felt this since 2016, also in my bed, by the way. But in that moment of, oh my gosh, I can't do this. It's too hard. In that moment, my heart soared because when the last time I felt this was a massive turning point in my business. And this is a turning point that I have been building toward. I have been able to feel it, when I felt that flicker of doubt, my heart soared because I knew what it meant. It meant that there was profound change underfoot, and I'm sure that all of the stuff that I'm going through now will be the topic of a webinar in a while. And it might be hard for you to see, but I can see it. I can experience it. And here's the thing, back in the day when I experienced vulnerability, full frontal vulnerability, I would try to maybe cover it up with positivity. I would try to hide it. I would try to not acknowledge it. I would try to just kind of steel myself to it. And I'm not going to lie, those things can still happen from time to time because I'm human. But I have learned that for me, there is a companion to entrepreneurial vulnerability, full frontal entrepreneurial vulnerability, the kind of vulnerability that I know some of you experience now, and I know some of you have experienced and are about to experience. So the perfect companion to entrepreneurial vulnerability is devotion. It's devotion. And there's 3 types of devotion. There's devotion to the woman you are becoming, devotion to the relationships that sustain you, and devotion to your clients and your mission. So let's kind of break those up. So devotion to the woman that you are becoming. The reality is, when I think about the gorgeous clients I work with, this is a huge part of why we do what we do. Yes, we want to make the money. Yes, we love, working with our clients. Yes, we love the freedom and autonomy that having our own business allows. But I think more than that, and what, is really the hallmark of the clients that we work with, that we attract into our ecosystem, and of what we value so much, as a company and myself as a person, is that the process of entrepreneurship, who you become as you pursue this worthy goal of building a 7-figure business, the woman that you become, that is the richness. That is, I think it's one of the most important prizes, potentially the most important, because of who you become, the skills that you get, the resilience that you develop, and your ability, and how those skills and who you are inspires change and shifts in other people. Right? So devotion to the woman you're becoming. So when you are going through hard times, when you are feeling the full frontal vulnerability of leading a company that you are building, of trying to lead a company and build a company at the same time, right? Remember to stay, when that gets hard and you feel that full frontal and you want to hide, you want to go to sleep, you have the flicker of, oh my gosh, really? Remain steadfast and devoted to that gorgeous, amazing, wise woman that you are becoming. Devotion to the relationships that matter the most. This is another kind of devotion. And I think about, when I think about this, for me, quite frankly, I think about my family. I think about my husband. I think about my boys. And I think about devotion to them and what I can teach them through my example, like side by side with them, that the life skills that I can teach them, and the investment. And when things get hard and I feel vulnerable, I lean into presence even more in my relationships with those people that I love so much, because that gives me the strength to do the hard things that I need to do as an entrepreneur. And then finally, devotion to clients and mission. And the closer you stay to this is your bigger why, right? The closer you connect and stay to your devotions to your devotion to your clients and your mission, the more worthwhile it is. Again, when I go through a hard time, when I think about feeling full frontal vulnerability, I coach on this and I experience this. What makes this easier? Or maybe not easier, but what brings out the richness in my own difficulties, what helps me navigate them, is that I know that this is fodder and material that will be so helpful to you. I work with women entrepreneurs all the time, every day. I see this kind of full frontal vulnerability as very normal, but I know that many of you aren't in the situation that I'm in. You do not work all day, every day with other women entrepreneurs. And so that when you experience challenges, when you experience that excruciating vulnerability, when you experience the high performers, dilemma of taking on big challenges that are just at the limit of your skill level to be able to handle, you might not understand how normal that is for entrepreneurs, and how, other women are in that gritty arena with you, by your side. They're not talking because they're busy leading their own companies, but you are not alone, right? No matter how strong you are, how talented you are, how much money you have, failure is coming for you, because this is real life. That is full frontal vulnerability. And the person that you become on the other side of those big and small failures, that is the woman who has the resolve to keep going regardless. And that is the gift of entrepreneurial leadership. That is why the world needs women entrepreneurs, because we are able to do this. So when you think of what the challenges of running your business, when you think about the full frontal vulnerability of this, I want you to stay focused on what it's giving you, the richness that it's giving you. And there is no way in hell when you think about the richness that you get, not just from the wins, but also from the challenges. When you really think about the woman that you are becoming as you navigate that, I mean, when you think about when I think about the things that used to bother me, that they just don't even bother me at all anymore because of, walking through that fire, there's no way I'd ever hand that over to a body double. Like, I'm going to take the money, I'm going to take the rewards, I'm going to accept those and love those and enjoy those. Like, those are the good things that we always talk about. But I'm also going to take the hardship. I'm also going to take the vulnerability. And I'm also going to take the incredibly rich learnings. I will not hand those over to a body double. That's all you, and that's all yours. All right, my queen, I hope you found this episode useful. And if you did, let me know. Let me know what came through for you based on this episode. You can send me an email, eleanor@eleanorbeaton.com. I love to read those. And you can also message me on Instagram @eleanorbeaton. All right, have an amazing day. Lean into the vulnerability. Share the wins and successes, but also know that when you are feeling broken, when you are having a hard time, when you are just like, oh my gosh, could one more thing go wrong? And then it does. Know that you are not in that arena alone. You have a sisterhood of incredible women leaders who are side by side with you in there. They're not texting you. They're not blowing up your phone because they are busy in their own world, but we are together in this. Thank you so much, Queen. And we'll see you back here, same bat time, same bat place, for another episode of Power, Presence, Position. Thank you for listening to Power, Presence, Position. Your message, your mission, your millions. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but one of life's greatest pleasures is enriching conversation with intelligent, insightful women entrepreneurs who are unapologetic about their ambition. If this is you, then you need to join the Power, Presence, Position community of practice. This party is happening over on Facebook. You can access it by going to eleanorbeaton.com/community. Join us over there where you can access our book club, happy hours, executive roundtables where we talk about the issues that matter most to women entrepreneurs. This is a high-level conversation, the best conversation about women entrepreneurship on the internet. Join us at eleanorbeaton.com/community.